The Sidebar podcast is made possible thanks to shady offshore bank accounts, the American Dental Association, and that hole in your tooth. As smelly as an asshole and deeper than that lust for your sister, that hole in your tooth is doing you no favors. So what do you say, Coffee Breath? Are you just going to brush those Tweety Yellows, or are you going to just have a stranger who ate Panera Bread for lunch stick a cold drill in your mouth? The choice is simple. Your body doesn't need another hole. Brushing your teeth is the only way to go. Don't believe me? Ask George Washington. Oh wait, you can't. He's dead.
This message brought to you by the sale of narcotics and the American Dental Association. Your wife wants you to make it spicier in the bedroom. You reach for the garlic hummus, but you grab the mayonnaise. Welcome to the Sidebar. I'm Clint Mars-Novak, filling in for Sebastian Morales, who's currently remembering the 21st night of September. American Lawyer is a monthly law magazine published by ALM, founded in 1979. Noah Hercules is not a lawyer, but with his article American Lawyer, he interviews and chronicles the lawyers practicing law in America. Noah, welcome to the Sidebar.
Thank you for having me. Seems great.
It's very nice to have you here, too. I'm very glad, actually, to have a lawyer on the Sidebar because our title, The Sidebar, is a term in law.
I'm actually not a lawyer. I do work for American Lawyer magazine. Mm-hmm. I did go to law school, but where other people went on to pass the bar, I passed on the bar. I chose a different path.
And that is of the writer and the interviewer.
Yes, and I wanted to write specifically about lawyers because I went to law school.
Okay, so, and you think that you have the qualifications to talk to these lawyers because do you talk about personal, confidential matters, or is it just practices of all kinds?
No, these are public interviews, so the website does, it's for everyone to read. Nothing is confidential, so if I'm writing an article, I will write their name. So just first steps of my interview process, I'm going to get the name of my interviewee, excuse me. And yeah, and then I'll prepare some questions that are particular to their field in law.
You know a lot of lawyers.
I do, but they're not as kind as they once were. My interview style is a bit aggressive.
Oh, okay. I see. We have gotten a lot of, some of the lawyers who you have interviewed have reported back feeling attacked verbally in some ways. And
yes.
Also, some of them have reported back feeling shamed.
Yes, as well. Shame, anger, disrespect, those are common feelings from my interviewees. I go for the incendiary topics.
Yeah, and I think your stance, as you've chronicled in your article before, is that once you piss someone off beyond all civil societies measures, recourse, then you really get to know who that person is.
Yeah, it's when you get to the fundamental, then you really see the person.
That's very kind.
Kind?
It's not kind, but that's very. You're doing a civil service, I think, because for people to know who their lawyers
slander,
are.
That's why I'm
That's
here.
Also true. You actually have lashed out at a few people.
A lot of the inflammatory statements I've made have been very ethnically charged. However, yes. I am Norwegian, so I don't feel like it's a problem.
Yes. Being Norwegian, it's... that doesn't seem too ethnically diverse, though. Does that give you a card one way or the other?
The country is neutral on most stances.
I see. And so that
carte blanche, if you will.
Carte blanche.
Yes.
Norway is like the middle of the road dollop of whipped cream of countries.
Yes, I would definitely agree that it's definitely something you'd put on a fruit for dessert. Definitely, I see the airiness in your cream analogy. Yes. Maybe also a flan.
Something light, something fluffy, something that goes down smooth. You have been an advocate for inmates since you have studied for the bar, though not taken it. You passed on.
Yes, I'm also helping others study for the bar. I will not help them take the test, though.
So how... I'm sorry, that you mean you're helping them study for it, but you won't take the test for them, or...
Or be in the room. I don't know which numbered questions are what. If somebody were to say, what's the answer to 6, I would not be able to help.
Well, I want to talk a little bit more about your article and about your long, almost fabled, mythical history with lawyers, because you have gone through many different states, traveled all over the country, and you've talked to a lot of different people in a lot of different fields.
I talked to Jesse James' lawyer.
You talked to Jesse James' lawyer?
Yes, during the legal battles.
That is, wow, okay.
Yeah, with Sandra Bullock.
And which side, do you take a side in some of those?
Absolutely. You're not supposed to.
Okay.
But I absolutely do. I felt Jesse James was guilty and a bit of a prick.
Really?
Yeah. Works out too much. I'd say focus more on your mind.
Maybe he thought a bit too much with his fists.
See, now you're getting it.
Now, how do you stay, you are supposed to stay neutral, just like Norway. But how might...
But I didn't.
But you didn't. And how might that affect the writing that you do on these lawyers? Because you're not trying to judge them for their clientele, but necessarily, if you don't like their clientele, it kind of bleeds in.
True.
So how does it affect the writing on these lawyers? Because you have been known for writing some scorchers.
Well, I type. I'd say how much I'm interested in the project would affect the speed at which I type. The faster I type, the more typos will occur. I often have to go back and edit. So definitely my energy level will affect the speed at which I write articles. Also in style, in form, kind of the same. It's interesting.
That makes a lot of sense. I think emotions get into your writing. When I write, for instance, when I was doing my Pulitzer Prize winning coverage.
Oh, a Pulitzer.
Yes, a Pulitzer. My Pulitzer Prize winning coverage of the Sandy storm in New York. I was so impassioned with the willingness to heal this city that I cried onto my pages, and the tears and the smudges were photocopied.
You don't have a word processor?
No. At the time, we had no power at all. I was hooked up to a bunch of potatoes and lemons. That was all that I had in order to put out my pages.
What? Expound on the potatoes and lemons part. What's that?
I'd rather. It was a hard time, and there were very, very many.
You can make a battery from a potato. You
can, and some lemons and some potatoes are better formed for giving power. The Egyptians actually had lemons that they used, ancient lemons.
I've been watching a lot of Ancient Aliens in here, and been getting into Egypt. And how else did they move those rocks? Right?
I have to imagine that aliens with lemons came down and were able to give them the power in order to move the rocks.
I mean, Nefertiti had an elongated skull. If you look at Nefertiti in these beautiful cave drawings, it's obviously not an artist's rendition. This is a real historical moment. Let me relate it to like a Polaroid picture. When you take a picture, you can't fake that, right? So just like the drawings.
Interesting. I think we can both agree, and you have said in your article before, and you got into a very heated argument actually with, was it, I believe, someone from the O.J. Simpson trial, that lemons come from aliens.
The lady. I do not recall her name.
I can't either at the moment.
The lady, but she did say, "Hi, I'm the lady from the O.J. Simpson case." When we talked very briefly, she did not offer her name.
Yeah, because you were very hostile and started off immediately with the lemons are from aliens. And
Hot lemons.
hot lemons.
I'm always screaming about my hot lemons. And really, when you look at the history of most citrus fruit, you're going to lead it back to aliens, to the ancient astronaut theory. And then there was a little plane back then, so it was a toy.
Now, you have posited, you actually wrote a book not too long ago about lemon law.
Yes.
And how we should all go into lemon law. And the only test that should exist is lemon bar.
I wanted to title the book "When Life Gives You Lemon Law" by this book, but
that is sound marketing, and I don't know why your publisher didn't let you do that.
I don't have a publisher.
Oh,
I didn't. I lost my computer.
That is very unfortunate. You were able to. Did you? You didn't save a draft. You had to retype the whole thing.
I'm gonna have to check the cloud to see what kind of MP files are there.
Well, I hope you do find it, because the excerpts that you released were astounding.
Oh, transcendent.
Transcendent.
Yeah, that's what most people have been saying.
I very much liked the part where you expounded that any violent crime should be paid for in the pounds of lemons of the victim put on top of the perpetrator.
Yes, this is something I wrote in great detail. I find that, pounds per square inch when reference to lemons to bodies is going to be a perfect way to just equalize the transgression that you've made. Murder, lemons, just give them to the family. If they ferment, cool. There's a bit of limoncello that you might be able to get out of the situation. I know that lemons are great at cleaning. They're a cleaning product that I've found.
Actually, our beloved researcher, the intern, Addie Harper, she tried out some of the pounds per square inch that you've been talking about.
The equation?
Yes.
It's getting a lot of traction.
And she actually, she accidentally kicked her cat. And so she put her pregnant cat, that weight on her big toe, crushed her toe immediately, and almost nearly severed it.
Whose toe was crushed? The cat or your friend?
Oh, our intern.
Your
Addie Harper.
intern friend.
Yes.
Uh,
she's not my friend.
What's
She doesn't have any friends. She actually works here.
How do you know that?
At almost all the time.
Do you talk to her about her lack of friends?
She is either here or she's in the studio all the time. She has no time off. She is doing this for college credit, but I've never seen her at class.
I'm just saying, it seems a little mean to just say someone has no friend. It's personal business.
Unless she has friends in her head that she talks to. She does talk to the corner sometimes. Has a couple of pebbles that she likes.
Seems like this person has real problems. She works for you? Maybe pass her number over to American Lawyer. We could use some good folks.
No, I don't think she needs help. One of your more famous cases that you've written about, there was a case against Harper Lee, the author of To Kill a Mockingbird.
Yes.
PETA,
famous book.
PETA actually rallied against the book because the title is a little dangerous.
How to murder an animal.
How to murder an animal.
Yeah.
And you took the side of PETA.
I would.
Of course.
Yeah.
The book itself is not about killing animals. It's actually about racism in America and the entrenched.
I didn't get a chance to read it.
It is a classic, sir. I'm not sure why.
Well, and I was not a lawyer on that case, so I did not represent PETA, but I did take their side.
Yes.
Just as an audience member.
And you actually wrote many different impassioned articles that were printed all over the internet and even in the New York Times, which rallied a bunch of people to your cause.
Yeah, to actually write something on how to really kill a mockingbird. If you wanted to know how, please don't read this book.
Okay.
It's not correct information. It's misleading.
Fair. And
but I was on the side of PETA.
Yes, but it's not how to actually kill a mockingbird. Of course, you know that.
That's what I mean.
Yes.
But I also didn't read it.
Fair. I know you also called the witnesses and the experts and
All of them.
pretty much everybody involved in the case.
1 through 12.
All the jurors as well. And
Yeah.
you made different, well, I don't want to say threats.
Why don't you want to say that?
Because that seems...
What they were.
Okay, well, you made certain threats, and all 12 of the jurors were very angry.
It's part of the slander.
And they were very angry. Why?
Because I was trying to blackmail them with false information. I'm very good at Photoshop. It's something I do in my free time. Well, not anymore, but something I did in my free time. Yeah, I love looking at using the pen tool.
Oh, okay.
To get out blemishes. I started there. Was working on red eyes and, just figuring out how to make, that hair pop. Putting myself in like Jurassic Park, things like that. But then, I was looking at people's faces for American Lawyer Magazine, trying to have it all come together, really build a proper business plan, branding.
Yes.
For the company. But then I just got really, I got frustrated.
You actually, you photoshopped one of the jurors in an orgy in Palestine.
Yeah, there's not a lot of those, but yeah, the one I found.
Yeah, that wasn't an impressive. I have seen the picture.
Really?
And yes, actually.
Do you think I got the color tone to match right? How was the lighting?
I'm not sure, having never actually been to an orgy in Palestine, but it seems...
just as far as did it look good in the picture?
Oh, it's very convincing.
Oh, okay,
it is very
great.
Convincing. You are very good at Photoshop. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I am impressed, which is actually why all of these witnesses and all these experts and all the jurors had to bend to your will.
Yeah, they all paid me a lot of money. I was quite rich for 17 days before, but that's a whole nother story.
Well, what did you do with your 17 days?
Oh, I guess that's pretty interesting. Yeah, for those last 17 days before I was convicted, I was going through just trying to find every single person that I had attempted to blackmail, and then through a series of anonymous further threats to try and silence them further, to say that I tried to blackmail them more with more Photoshop stuff.
Yes.
Just a lot of, if you put somebody like a man's head on a woman in the middle of a gangbang.
Yes. I mean,
it's embarrassing.
It really changes the whole thing up.
Some of these people were teachers.
Yeah. You actually, you even photoshopped someone's child kidnapped. How did you convince the parent that the kid was kidnapped when the kid was obviously at home?
Facebook is great. Halloween pictures I find are really the best, where you're putting children in painful situations because they're often mimicking the pain and fear of being kidnapped or dying and stuff.
Now, you have gotten so good at photoshopping that you've actually been able to Photoshop memories into people's minds.
I call it mind shop.
Yeah, mind shopping, like hacking into their minds and creating entire identities and stories and lives that they haven't had before. You convinced a man he was a lawyer.
Yes, I convinced him he was an American lawyer because I needed to get an article done, and I just, didn't get a lot of callbacks. You call these lawyers, and they're like, pay me for my time. It's like I'm doing an interview for the American Lawyer Magazine. It's a monthly magazine.
Yes.
Yeah, so I called up my buddy Dave. I was like, hey, Dave, you want to come to the house? Maybe we could have a brewski. I'm thinking about making some turkey burgers. Found a new recipe online. It uses egg as a binding agent.
Oh.
It's really, just moister than I'd usually expect from a turkey burger. But yeah, Dave came over. I just did a little mind hack, little mind shop sitch on his face. And then he went to a law office and got a job. And he's been working for 6 years now.
That is very impressive. You really turned his life around, too.
Yeah, you should thank me instead.
Yeah, he probably should. You have gotten him in touch with many different lawyers.
Yeah, he's talked to other lawyers through me.
He has. You actually, you probably most recently and most famously in your recent articles, you dealt with Kesha's lawyer in her ongoing battles with her producer.
Oh, you mean $$ Ha?
Yes.
Okay.
$$ Ha, also known as Kesha.
That's not.
Well, okay. Agree to disagree.
Yeah.
Agree to disagree.
So you're talking about one of my another one of my very recent, very famous articles.
Mm-hmm.
This one in regards to Kesha's lawyer, and I did so many articles on Kesha's lawyer. Which one was this?
This was the one in what was it? I'd say February of 2016. No, 2017. February.
Oh, the famous one.
Yes, the famous one.
Oh, I was way off.
Yes.
I thought you were talking about one of the less famous ones.
Yes.
He was lawyering and just being mean to her, and I was like, hey, let's not do that.
Now, I understand that you actually talked him through the entire process. You were the one. You basically bullied that lawyer into making a case, bullying her into making a case. So you essentially are responsible for getting Kesha that victory in that case.
I would not say that. I was really trying to help him.
You were trying to help him.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you were trying to help him.
I'm on the side of the lawyer. It's my job.
You were trying to help him help her.
So Kesha's lawyer, $$ Ha, she's a bully, as far as I'm concerned.
Wow.
Yeah. Quit telling me how to say her name. That's what I like to say to her specifically.
I mean, it is her name, and she gets to choose how to say it.
Does she? Do people get to choose how to say their own name? Because I think that's insane. That's nuts. It's phonetics. You can't choose this.
I agree, and I have a fear that people are going to put their names as XY34 on their birth certificates, and then tell you to call them Tim.
Well, is that how you make Tim with numbers? You said XY.
XY.
Oh, I was thinking like maybe 7, backwards 7, 1. No, you can't make an M.
You can't make an M. It's got to be an M.
I used to write boobs with a calculator.
Okay, that's
some of my early writing.
That is always a fun one.
58008.
The Sidebar podcast is brought to you by Airbox. Do you smell something? Odds are, if you live in a dumpster, it's trash. Luckily, Airbox has you covered. Literally. It comes with a face mask and plenty of air. In a box. Stop sniffing other people's freshly folded laundry and get with the program. Air from Airbox isn't just sucked out of the air, it's beaten, then stirred. If it's good enough for James Bond, it's good enough for you. Put the cocaine down, Johnny, and pick up Airbox. It's air. In a box. In a box. In a box. The Sidebar podcast is also brought to you by Your Diapies. Feeling an extra crinkle cut in your loaded baked potato? Then you need Your Diapies, the French fried diaper of choice. Your Diapies delivers 30 kilotons of odor-reducing flavored crystals tucked into 30 pockets of freshness to deliver the goods when you didn't know the goods were being delivered. Don't risk being undercooked. Get Your Diapies. Your Diapies. For when other diapers won't do. Now, you have a bunch of run-ins with bully lawyers.
Bulls. Went to Pamplona.
What are some of the tactics that you use when interviewing a bully lawyer?
Well, you just get your questions in because they're driving the ship. Just let them drive. Don't backseat interview what they like to say. I've said it sometimes too. I don't know if I like to say it though. But yeah, you talk to them be meek, like a small, like a rabbit with one foot chopped off. So you're less lucky than the other guys.
Okay, so you have to make yourself appear the lesser so that they feel appeased when you are really luring them into your interview trap.
Yes, and then it's the gotcha.
Okay,
Gotcha.
You snake back with your loop trap, and you hang them from a tree
Like a lasso.
Okay.
Or bear traps do it. Nets. It's like a proverbial, not proverbial. Like a net, but not a net. Like in your brain.
Okay.
Like a thought net.
A thought net.
Yeah, you're catching thought. He's in a trap because of my thought net.
Now, how do you deal with you have some exposés where you
Exposes.
Exposes on many different lawyers that cheat. You have many run-ins with lawyers.
You can't really cheat in law.
Well, I would think that you're
you can do things dishonorably.
That's fair, such as threatening all 12 jurors. But
I'm not a lawyer.
That's okay. But as a lawyer, if you do something dishonorably, does it have to be decided on a duel of honor or something of that kind?
Are you saying like within your firm when you're having your plan of attack within with a lawsuit? You're talking about within your firm when you have a lawsuit. That are you planning your attack with a group of people ahead of time? Or yes.
Or if for instance you have someone who you know to be dishonorable, do you challenge them?
Like a duel.
Yes, do a duel.
There's no public duels. I've had 2 lawyers in a room, but they weren't dueling.
Just 2 lawyers
Just sitting,
not talking, of course.
Yeah, it was tense.
Now, how do lawyers duel if they were to do it?
Usually they'll be in the courtroom, and one person will deliver the side of their argument. And then what they do is they have a series of witnesses and evidence to support their part of the case. And then they'll rest. That'll be the defense. So then once they rest, then it'll be the DA's turn, district attorney. Okay. And they'll try to prove the other point of it. So that's how little inside baseball for lawyer stuff.
And is there a way to appeal a duel? Do you appeal to court of
the Court of Appeals?
Appeals.
Yeah.
The dual appeal court.
There are 2 of them. The dual appeals courts they're great. One's in Washington D.C. One's in California, I believe Sacramento, the capital.
Yes,
I know that. I've been getting a lot better about capitals. You know, when you get older, you think, do I even know them anymore? But the other day, I tested myself. I got over 35.
Wow, that is actually very impressive.
Yeah. Sacramento, right?
Sacramento is one of the places where duels happen.
The dual Court of Appeals.
The dual Court of Appeals.
So they would deal with any appeal that was based on a duel, but there does happen to be 2 of them. It's confusing.
Yes, dual Court
of Appeals.
That is courts. Wow, yes. That is quite a mouthful. And you some of the more famous duels, of course, lawyer duels in history. Alexander Burr.
Yeah.
More of a
Alexander Hamilton and Andrew Burr. That's the most famous duel as far as I know.
But that is of course not so much a lawyer duel. That is just a duel with guns.
Were they not lawyers?
They were both lawyers, but I'm thinking more like before he got on the Supreme Court, Chief Justice Thurgood, he had a epic duel with one of his rivals, Erickson.
Are you talking about a discussion?
I'm talking about the lawyer duels.
The lawyer duels.
Lawyer duels.
Now
yes.
it's
famous
clear.
lawyer duels. Thurgood and his rival at the time.
Thurgood Marshall?
Thurgood Marshall, yes.
Not a lot of other Thurgoods.
No, there are not. There are not a lot of Thurgoods in the world.
Which you'd imagine it'd be a popular name given his level of fame.
I think that if you name someone Thurgood, you're automatically setting them up to be well known.
As the Thurgood.
As the Thurgood.
And good's in your name.
Yeah, so you must be good.
That's what people would say.
Yes.
And if you were bad, it'd be a surprise.
Mm-hmm. You might bad.
Nobody would. Maybe as a joke. But if you were bad, wouldn't they be in fear of your jokes? Would they be in fear of making jokes to you to be in fear of?
Then you might end up in a duel.
And you don't want that.
No.
Especially not duels.
Especially not with...
Two of them.
I see what you did there. But Thurgood and Erickson, Marshall and Erickson, I should say, they went head-to-head in a duel that lasted almost 3 hours. And they were both sweating and bleeding by the end. Not from violent strikes. They just both actually cut their hands by slamming on the tables so hard.
Thurgood also had a heavy cough. Which not a lot of people talk about. I've noticed that a lot of coughs occur during lawyer duels because it's a lot of talky talk.
Yes.
And you got to talk loud, got to project, and then you have to go really quiet for about 25 minutes at a time.
Yeah. So
and that's when it gets really intense. When it's just because it's just between them. It's like two boxers. One's on his ear, and he's like,
Now, I understand in law school, there is an entire class dedicated to teaching you the Thurgood cough so that you can better pronounce your...
It's kind of like a throat clear. It's
Yes.
a...
And that gears you up for the next round of the silent talking, so that you can better last in the duels and better last in the courtroom.
Did you want to give the whisper talk a try?
Oh, I would love to give the whisper. Do we just talk? Do we just do it?
You try to say it as few words as possible, but make as much sound as possible. So it's like I found a bed.
I just found
a bed.
I like a little bit.
Ham sandwiches.
That seems like a very fun thing to do.
It's very fun. It really throws off the audience.
Now, I think that one of the things that the cough really gives you, and that silent time, exactly. There are some judges that only talk in coughs.
Yes.
And so being able to...
Very difficult, like an MTA conductor.
So being able to speak the language of the judges automatically gives you the bump, the advantage in the courtroom.
It's like driving a car with illegal drugs and being a Caucasian male.
Exactly. Because when you're a Caucasian male, things just don't happen to you as much.
Well, things happen to you, just not prejudicial things.
This is fair.
Yeah.
This is fair.
Yeah, things happen to everybody.
Bad things, good things.
Yeah, things.
But, so in the cough courts, if we can call them cough courts.
We could call them cough courts.
Because when...
Kafkaesque Cough Courts.
Kafkaesque Cough, because
when it is dreary.
It is dreary and surreal when you get a cough judge. And once there's a cough judge, it's automatically declared a cough court. And for anyone who's listening, there has to be a cough translator.
And whenever it gets too loud, it's a cacophony.
There's too much coughing. Because cacophonies only happen, of course, when an excellent point is made. And then everyone in the audience has to start coughing and begging. That is, of course, part of cough law.
And if you really take out that break in the middle, it's cough law.
As cough law.
Cough law.
Kafkaesque cough law.
Cough law.
So that is something that...
Well, and if you're a master in Kafkaesque cough law, then really when you're going to the dual courts of appeals,
courts,
then you're in the game. You know what's up.
Yeah.
And that's where the majority of the lawyers I know practice.
Because that's when you have the duality
Yes.
of being able to speak in the dual courts and in the cough courts.
So yeah, the dual courts and the cough courts are two courts. So you could say, are there three courts now?
There are, I think a law court is a law court, and that is the basic court. You're not going to practice law
court.
in another type of court.
That sounds like a great name for a TV show. Law court. In the courtroom where there's law. Law court.
Now, I know there are appeal courts, but let's talk shortly a little bit about the Superior Cough Court and the Supreme Cough Court. Because the Superior Cough Court
absolutely
has some of the best cough judges in the nation, but and they see a lot of heated cases every year.
Well, and they'll get heated and then they'll get dry. So we'll have dry coughs. We'll have some heated coughs that'll become more of a phlegm base. Not a phlegm base, but just a phlegm byproduct.
Yes.
And you'll hear a deep rattle.
Yeah.
A lot of our smoking judges have been dying.
Oh.
Due to the smoking.
Now, it is actually a prerequisite to be on the Supreme Cough Court that you must have chain smoked for at least 8 years.
In fact, the chain smokers were up there for, 3.5 months?
Yes.
Just because people didn't understand the difference.
Yeah. It's...
Just because it says it on a ballot doesn't mean it's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I understand that you are becoming an advocate for the mumble courts.
Yes.
Which is actually inspired from mumblecore rap. And this is
I did not know that.
Yes. So it's a lot more of a music litigation, but everyone talks in ways that no one is intelligible and
very similar to the cough courts.
Very similar to the cough courts, but at the same time
not as Kafkaesque.
Not as Kafkaesque. This is much more mum.
That's the word.
And a little bit more how shall I say?
What's the word I'm looking for?
Modern.
Mum.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, and modern.
And modern. That's something that is important. The courts are trying to become more modern.
What are mumps?
Mumps, that's a disease of some sort.
What's actually happening there? Why does a face get so big?
I'm not sure. It's some sort of
thyroid or
swelling of some sort.
I think it's maybe a lymph node.
Okay.
But don't you have two lymph nodes?
You do on either sides of your
neck,
windpipe.
Okay.
I guess
that's also
on either sides of your neck.
That's also neck.
Yes. And well, anyway, the mumble courts.
Sorry about that.
No worries.
I'm really curious about mumps.
I understand. The mumble courts are held on racquetball courts, and you actually have to.
It's so echoey.
Yeah, and you have to actually be playing racquetball anytime you make.
It's so loud you hit it.
Yeah. Anytime you make an argument, you have to be playing.
I used to play racquetball with my mother as a child. I was very young, but still energetic, athletic. I was very. I could hold a racket all by my lonesome.
That's impressive.
So we get in that racquetball court, so echoey. It really prepared me for the future. But we played a game. I'd win sometimes. I'd lose sometimes, and that taught me a lesson too.
That is very apt to life, because sometimes in life you win, sometimes in life you lose.
Yes.
You have got involved with some lawyers, talking to some lawyers who are involved in cases against Target and Marshalls and some bigger retail stores.
Because of the sales.
Because of the sales, and they're taking you to kangaroo court.
Now that's something I'm not familiar with. I believe that it was started in Australia. I did not almost get a law degree in that, and that's for a reason. I'm not into marsupials. Anything with a pouch, you're a weird alien thing. I understand you have fur, you're fuzzy, you seem nice, but you box people.
Yes.
That's not okay.
Well, they mostly kick with their legs.
But you've seen the pictures, right?
I've seen pictures.
You've seen cartoons.
They're just like muscular deer.
They always have punching gloves.
Yes.
So I don't trust boxers because of CTEs.
Of course.
So there can be wild mood swings.
Uh-huh.
That's why I don't trust a kangaroo.
I think if you look into something's eyes and you don't see a soul, it doesn't really. It's not trustworthy.
Like a turtle.
Like a turtle sees.
A turtle hurdle.
How do you trust something if you look into the depths of its soul and it's just an empty abyss? If you look into the abyss, does the abyss not gaze back?
Do you then question your ability to look into abysses?
Because abysses are very big and lookable, but maybe not everyone has the ability to see into them.
And so if you can't see the soul, is that you're bad or it's bad?
Well, I think a kangaroo, especially a kangaroo in court, should be able to
have a soul.
Should be able to have a soul. But if you don't have a soul...
But what if you don't see the soul? Even if it has a soul?
Then maybe it's just two abysses looking into each other. How do you...
Who's to judge? Probably the judge in this case.
Probably the
kangaroo judge.
The kangaroo judge on the abysses. If two abysses gaze into each other, the abysses gaze back.
Yeah, there's no gravity.
Before we wrap, actually, one thing I do want to say. What is next?
Well, I'm thinking maybe I'll go back to the magazine. I definitely want to get... I would like to get into maybe a pop-up turkey burger shop. I've been thinking about maybe switching it one more time. And maybe have it be called Past the Bar. And there will be a limbo bar in the front door.
So that
gets lower as the day goes, and if you can't go under it, I call you a dago.
Oh, I see. And you also have to...
Oh, that's rude. Sorry.
And you also have to sign out. You have to answer 5 questions. You have to answer 5 questions from the bar.
Personal questions.
Very personal questions.
What's your password?
Yeah, and what's your social security number? And then you have to sign legal releases, and you have to actually be accompanied by or be a lawyer in order to eat there.
Or you are a lawyer interviewer. I've been there many times.
Well,
or it's going to be my restaurant. I have not been there yet. I've imagined being there many times.
In your head castle?
Past the bar restaurant for turkey burgers.
Okay.
With a limbo door.
A limbo door. How low can lawyers go?
Hopefully, low enough to get out of my fucking restaurant at close.
I hear you, brother.
Oh, dear.
All right. Noah Hercules, American Lawyer, The American Lawyer Magazine. Thank you so much for coming by.
You're welcome. Now it's back to this.
Next week on the Sidebar. Everyone's getting chinchillas. But are chinchillas actually getting us? I'm Clint Myers-Novak. Thanks for stopping by.